We'll give it just another minute or so to let people get logged on. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to the March Elevate. We are going to talk about leave, all things leave related today. The first half hour is going to be about all the kinds of leave that have nothing to do with or that aren't family. And then we're going to have Taylor Craven from Employee Services join us at 2, and she will talk about family. So we might have to stall a little bit, or we'll be taking a break if this first little bit runs a little short. So she's not able to join us until 2. So we'll go ahead and get started. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about leave policies briefly. We'll go over the benefits and other types of leave that we have, and then families' interaction with leave and family questions. When we get to the family section, like I said, we'll have Employee Services here to answer. She's going to go over some information and then answer some general questions. If you have questions about that, and based on the number of emails that I get in a week, you probably do, please keep those general and not mention like anybody's personal medical information or anything like that. So we will jump right in. So there are a couple of policies that govern leave. APS 5062 is the main one. It outlines all of the different leave-related policies. Each leave type might apply to different employee groups and might be controlled either by this APS or the Regent policy. And then if you have classified staff, then other state rules and regulations may apply. So when we send out these slides, you'll have the link to that APS. It's very thorough. And then sick and vacation accrual and compensation information is found in that 11E Regent policy. So that's where those things are located. If you have any questions on that, you can let me know. But they're all it's really detailed, especially that APS. There's like a tab for each kind of leave. So we'll just jump in with our leave benefits. So sick leave, we know that we have sick leave. University staff and faculty accrue 10 hours a month if you're a 1.0. That is prorated if you are if you're part-time. There is no maximum accrual. You have to be at least 50%, have a 50% appointment in order to accrue sick time. This is for illness events plus preventative care appointments, right? So going to the dentist or getting your eyes checked or caring for eligible family members. And departments can generally require a medical provider's note after 4 or more consecutive days absence. And that's under the Healthy Workplaces Act that went into effect a couple of years ago. For classified staff, we don't have very many of them, but those are governed by state personnel board rules, and they get 6.66 hours a month for full time. And there's a maximum accrual there of 360 hours or 45 days. And that is for illness of self or family as identified by FMLA. And they require a doctor's note after 3 days. And the department can require a doctor's note for a single day absence or more. We don't have, like I said, we don't have very many classified staff on this campus, or in the school. So most of that probably does not apply. So a little bit more on sick leave. So mental health days, we get questions about this quite a bit. So if an employee actually has a mental health condition and they are experiencing adverse symptoms related to their mental or behavioral health condition, they're welcome to use sick leave for those days while those symptoms resolve or they seek treatment from a provider. If you're just sick of working and you don't want to come to work today, that's not a sick day, that's a vacation day, right? So you'll need to take a vacation day for that. This is a healthy practice. These can be scheduled ahead of time. If you are, feeling burnt out, we definitely encourage you to use your benefits, but that would need to be a vacation day. As far as family and FMLA interaction, so if an employee is using sick leave for more than 3 days or is admitted to the hospital or has an extended absence with recovery, so like if they have a surgery or they're in a car accident or something, then that may make them eligible for family or FMLA job protections. So in that case, you're going to refer the employee to employee services to the leave portal, and then that'll coordinate with employee services for family benefits. Questions on sick leave?
Deanna, this
Yes.
is Jean. I thought I heard you say that you have to be at least a 0.5 FTE to earn sick leave, but we have hourly faculty and clinical faculty do earn sick leave.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Okay, I just wanted to make.
Sorry, yeah, it's prorated. Sorry, it's prorated.
And then we have something in the chat. Can we please talk more about mental health days? Sure. Danielle, is there something specific you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's particular instance, but it'd just be good to know in general. So we have a supervisor that's been concerned about an employee that's been going to school as well as working and stuff. And sometimes the stress of school and things has, really, between that and other things in their life, they wake up and say, I'm not feeling very well. I can't come in today. I need to take a mental health day.
So ideally that would be, ideally they would use vacation for that if they're ill, and that's an ongoing thing and they're unable to manage the stress. They should probably be considering seeking medical attention if it's an ongoing thing.
So it, persisting and stuff like that, it's like, well, this needs to be vacation. If this is really a sick thing, then there needs to be kind of almost that documentation then.
Yeah, I mean, if this has become a pattern, I think that you're, we don't want to regard them as having a disability or anything, right? But
absolutely.
But if it's becoming a recurring pattern, I think you can say, like, this seems to be a lot for you. Is there something else that we can do to help you? But otherwise, you probably need to take a vacation day for that.
Thank you.
We have another question. Is there a threshold for the number of sick days where an employee is required to apply for family or FMLA? For example, minor surgery out 6 or 7 days.
So FMLA technically kicks in after 3 days. And family is required, like we're required to run people through family. If you don't want to take vacation, if you don't want to use your sick time, and if you don't want to apply for those things, then you have to take vacation instead of sick time. If you don't want to, like, if you're FMLA eligible, you don't have to apply and fill out the med cert and all that stuff, but then you have to take vacation. You can't use your sick time.
How do we deal with an employee who is taking single sick days 3 to 4 times a month?
If they have the time, that's the benefit. If they've run out of sick time, then you can have a conversation with them about being out, then they'll have to take vacation. And then once they're out of time, then that's a separate conversation that you can have with employee relations about, they've exhausted their leave. I would, if there's performance issues related to that because they're not getting their work done, then that's a separate issue.
But if they are taking these single days off, nothing we can do about it as a department.
Well, I mean, the average number of sick days that a person takes in Colorado ranges from 6 to 8, according to Employers Council. So, I mean, that's, you know, if it's excessive absenteeism, then, and they're not getting their work done, then that's a performance concern that you can address.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what I initially thought, that if they are taking single day here and there, yeah, you have to, nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Although we know it's, you know, it's a pattern.
Yeah, if it relates, I mean, if it's impacting their performance and their ability to get their job done, then that's a separate issue.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I think that's everything in the chat unless somebody's, oh, wait, we got one. Okay, I have a quick question about family and PPL. Does everyone get 6 weeks and up to 240 hours of PPL, and we do not use PPL after those 6 weeks? I have a few employees on family that are not using PPL after 6 weeks, but have not used the full 240 hours of PPL.
So I'm gonna punt that one to Taylor when she gets here. But yeah, they should be using the full 240 like right up front. And that should be coordinating with family. But we'll hold that one until Taylor gets here. Okay. Last call on sick time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, something more fun, vacation time. So that accrues, as we know, at 14.667 hours per month at a 1.0 FTE. That is prorated by FTE. There is a maximum accrual of 352 hours or 44 days. You would have to work for 2 years straight without ever taking a day off to get to that time. And that's silly. So don't do that. You should take your vacation, and you should encourage your people to take vacation. Anything after 352 hours is swept effective June 30th. So after July payroll runs for June, those hours get swept. You can start running your leave report starting in January or February so that you can warn people. They have, Employee Services has created a specific report for that so that you don't have to do it manually anymore. They list their balances and what their projected balance will be if they don't take any time off between now and the end of the year. And then classified staff, their accrual is based on years of service, and they do have different maximum accruals. Questions on vacation? Vacation is a terrible thing to waste. You should take your time. Okay, next. So leave sharing. When an employee has exhausted all of their sick and vacation time, people can donate to them. They can donate vacation time to that individual. There are a number of requirements for this though. So they have to have been here for at least a year prior to their need. The donations do have to come, like I said, from vacation, and the qualifying event needs to have happened within the last 30 days. So, it needs to be that it's either the employee or the employee's immediate family member is experiencing a physical or mental illness that is catastrophic or poses a direct threat to life. So if they're on hospice or they're, outpatient, like heart attack or something like that, that would qualify. Just the kid being sick does not qualify. Our current policy is very restrictive. Most of the cases are not approved. They are considering revisiting that in the future. So we don't have very many leave sharing cases that actually get approved on this campus. Questions on leave sharing?
Just to reiterate, it's Lindsay. The kind of policy that's being maybe reviewed, is it being reviewed to maybe make it less restrictive? I end up with so many faculty who have like thousands of hours of sick leave, or obviously they can't donate sick leave, or they're getting leave swept and they're like, I want to donate it like into a bank, for someone who does have a need. but maybe
Yeah,
not to a specific person.
Yeah, and other campuses do it differently. They have, some of them have like a bank, like you're talking about. We have been told that campus HR is looking at it, but we don't know when or what that timeline is going to be.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that would be really great if we did that, right? Makes sense.
Yeah, so we'll, if we find out that that's happening, we'll let you know.
Cool, thanks.
No questions, just that's exactly what I was going to ask. And Christina, I get a lot of questions. I'm sorry, I get a lot of requests for donating into a pool in our division as well.
Yeah. Yeah, if we find out that campus HR is revising that, we'll let you know. Okay, so parental leave is granted to care for the employee's child within 12 months of the birth, adoption, foster care, placement, or guardianship. This does run concurrently with family and FMLA if you're eligible. You can get up to 26 weeks off, and it is day one eligibility if the date of hire precedes the qualifying event. So you would be eligible if you started today and had your baby tomorrow, but you would not be eligible if you started today and had your baby yesterday. So you have to have been employed already. Alternate arrangements can be made with the supervisor. So some parents choose to like use the six month leave like intermittently, like maybe they take 12 weeks off and then come back and then take a week off every month after that for the other, for another 6 months or something. So you can do that. It's only allowed in the first year of life or the first year of placement. So you can do that intermittently, but it has to be within that first 12 months. And we do ask that you work out a written agreement and have an MOU spelled out with the person that's going on leave so that you know what's expected and they know what's expected. They can also reduce their workload if they want to, or you can work out an alternative work schedule for them. Questions on parental leave? Okay. Moving right along. Holidays. So we get 10 paid holidays. Those are prorated for our part-time employees, appointed at 50% or more. As of June 2022, they added the personal observance day. You can take that for Juneteenth or any other kind of day that needs to be taken by the end of the fiscal year. That is anticipated to move to be on Juneteenth for FY25. And those holiday calendars should be coming out very shortly. Campus HR is still finalizing them, but I think they're going to try to get 2 or 3 years out at the same time so that you can plan ahead. And the sneak peek that I've seen does show that we are still going to have those administrative days at Christmas time. So that's good news. Holiday hours are prorated. And then clinical faculty or staff may need to flex their holidays, and that is allowed. So for some of the holidays like Martin Luther King or President's Day, where the clinics are open, if a staff member or faculty have to work on those days, then they can take a different day off. If you're on my leave, you should just leave the day where it is and not move it. You should just leave the day on that President's Day and take a different day off and just leave it on the day that it actually happens. Questions on holidays?
Yes, let me see. So some of us lose 100 to 150 hours of vacation almost every year due to the nature of their job can't take time off. I was told some higher education in the East allow employees to cash out unused vacation. This discussion came up with when one of our employees left. It was one of her concerns.
Yeah, Regent policy doesn't allow us to do that. The regents set the accruals and they set the maximums. So we encourage people to start planning earlier in the year. Like I said, that leave sweep report is available now, usually starting in January, so that you can that gives people some time to take, to manage to work that into their schedules.
For admin days, can we let our employees break up the hours into 2 half days?
Are you talking about for like a replacement of a holiday?
Some
Uh,
of those in lieu of a holiday, as well as the chancellor's days that we were given. Some of our employees were needing to be in the clinic, and then later we're trying to break them up into half days in different scenarios and stuff.
For the chancellor's days, they're pretty clear that it needs to be a day at a time.
Mhm.
With the floating with the holiday, I think you could let them do that if they had like 2 shifts in the, you know, if they had like a shift in the morning, that was their regular day to have a shift in the morning. I think you could do that.
That does make sense. Thank you.
So question from Jessica, can the floating holidays be used as sick leave if an employee has not accrued enough sick leave before needing one?
So the floating holiday is going to go away after this year. So no.
From Rebecca, do you have any idea which admin days will be awarded between Christmas and New Year's? I'm gonna go ahead and say no, not yet, Rebecca.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Cool.
They're close.
And then Nyla, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. For the personal observance day, can we take it before June or should it be taken after June as a floating holiday?
It needs, yeah, so this year it needs to be taken before June 30th for FY24. And then starting in FY25, I'm pretty sure they're going to leave it on Juneteenth. So it'll be on June 19th.
All right. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Got a long one. Okay, clarify here with when clinical staff want to use admin leave, chancellor awarded days on different days, I was informed this is to be substituted for 8 hours equivalency. I want to confirm this to be true, as some clinicians work 12-hour shifts, APP groups specifically.
Yeah, so the admin days and the vacation days do need to be taken in 8-hour increments.
Okay. One more from Danielle. Can the floating holiday be used in lieu of a sick day this year only for employees that got sick in their first month?
I mean, you could do that.
And then Joanne said, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. I think we're good.
Okay. I didn't think this part would take this long. Okay. Okay, bereavement leave. So you may receive up to 5 days of bereavement leave for each death event in order to take care of funeral services and manage other affairs. The list of family members is there. A manager may approve bereavement leave for a significant other person not included in the list. And then as of this year, sick leave can also now be used for bereavement purposes. So after the 40 hours of bereavement leave, a person can use their sick leave if they need to take additional time off to deal with the financial and legal matters. So that doesn't impact the bereavement leave. So they still get the 40 hours of bereavement leave. And then after that, they can take more time. It still goes back to any use of sick leave of more than 4 consecutive days may require documentation, but that can just be like the funeral notice or like, you have an appointment with an attorney or whatever. So there is a little bit more leeway on bereavement leave now.
Nyla, again, how to add bereavement leave in I think it's how do you add bereavement leave in my leave?
Yeah, there's a code for it. It's either bereavement, it says either bereavement or funeral.
All right, everybody's given the code. Thank you. Cool.
Okay. And then long-term disability is provided to employees after you've been here for a year. CU automatically pays for that and you just get automatically enrolled. That does pay 60% of your pre-disability earnings up to $23,625 a month, minus other sources. There is a 6-month waiting period for that. you should start, if you have an employee that needs to go on long-term disability and has been out for a while, you should start the process at about 4 months. It does take quite a bit of time to work with the standard to get that converted from short-term to long-term. So you would use a combination of family, sick and vacation, short-term disability, or unpaid time potentially to get to the 6-month mark. And then depending on how old you are when you are disabled, that lets you know how long the benefits continue. And then Social Security or Medicare would take care of you after that. Questions on long-term? Okay, other kinds of leave. This should go pretty quick. Inclement weather, as we were all alerted last week, sometimes the campus closes, very infrequently. But since COVID, the chancellor did change the policy so that there's not really any more sick days. We ask that you work remotely if at all possible. If you're not able to work remotely, or you have to take care of your kids because they don't have school either, then you should work with your supervisor to take vacation leave to accommodate that. If you are an essential employee or you have essential employees in your department, then those folks may be required to report to campus even if the campus is closed. And they've been pretty good lately about calling it a little bit earlier. Administrative leave. So this is the most flexible type of leave. So short-term administrative leave is at the supervisor's discretion. A supervisor can authorize up to 10 days or 80 hours per year. That can be used as an incentive or a reward if somebody's been working a lot extra on a special project or something, for volunteer activities. And there is a separate code for volunteering in my leave, or coursework related to the job. And then we have the chancellor or president or governor's leave for campus closures. Again, that's usually around the holidays. Those calendars should be coming out very soon. And then there is volunteer firefighter and volunteer first responder leave. So if you have somebody on staff that is a volunteer firefighter or an emergency first responder, they are eligible to take up to 5 days of administrative leave to do that. That's only to respond to an emergency. So like if there's like the Marshall Fire, if you had a firefighter going to help with that, they can take up to 5 days off for that. It's not to be used for training. And then extended administrative leave can be used for a disciplinary action, or if someone's under investigation for something, and the president or the chancellor or a designee must approve for extended administrative leave. And those you'd be probably working with employee services or employee relations and with legal on those extended administrative leaves.
We have one question from Angela. Are the chancellor's admin leave in addition to the 80 hours that are at the discretion of the supervisor, or is the total admin leave cap 80 hours a year?
That I don't know. So let me find out for you.
Sorry to stump you, Deanna. I was under the impression that it was 80 hours total for a whole year, which is why I asked the question. The extended administrative leave, like that's a totally different ballgame. So I get why that would be separate. But I believe it's a cap of 80 hours per year in general, which is why I was prompted to ask the question.
Okay, I will find out and we'll send that out when Brendan sends out the slides.
Thank you.
We'll put that in the email. Yeah. Okay, any more on admin? Okay, so court and jury duty leave, as Makita just found out this week. Sometimes you got to go to jury duty. So you are eligible for leave with full pay for jury duty, and leave with pay for appearing as a witness under subpoena. So if you get subpoenaed to go testify, you get paid for that, and that's under jury duty in my leave. If you are appearing without a subpoena, you can use vacation leave, or you can take leave without pay, and you can keep the money that the court gives you. They usually don't start paying until after the 3rd day, I believe. And then workers' compensation. So this is for eligible university staff and 12-month faculty. You are eligible for up to 90 days of paid leave from CU if you are injured on the job. And then after 90 days, the state workers' compensation will kick in, and that's two-thirds pay, and you can supplement with your sick or vacation to make whole. That does run concurrently with FMLA if you are FMLA eligible, and workers' comp does not interact with family. So if you have somebody that's injured at work, you would coordinate between, you would help them coordinate between your department and risk management. And that 90 days, that's new information. I just learned that like in the last year or so. So congratulations to having 90 days of paid leave for workers' comp.
Jean said per APS 5062, the 80 hours of paid admin leave is separate from the chancellor's, president, or governor's short-term paid admin leave.
All right, thanks, Jean. Okay, and then leave without pay. So you can grant leave for up to a period of 12 months. This needs to be approved by the supervisor and the hiring authority. Leave without pay, except for military leave and furloughs, is not granted until all of your vacation leave is exhausted, unless otherwise requested by the employee and approved by the supervisor. And then extensions past 12 months must be approved by the applicable hiring authority in consultation with the Human Resources Office. During these leaves without pay, except for military leave and furloughs, you don't accrue sick or vacation when you're on leave without pay. Questions on that? Military leave. So if you have someone who is a reservist or in the National Guard, they are eligible for up to 21 days paid leave. That is prorated for FTE. That is for training or active duty service. If it's more than 21 days, they can take vacation or they can go on unpaid. And then once exhausted, they're placed on military leave and their vacation and sick will still accrue. You do need to have a copy of their orders. So you need to secure that from the employee before you put them on military leave. And then if you have somebody that's active duty, they are also eligible for that 21 days. And then your department head can authorize to pay the difference between their CU salary and their military pay for up to 90 days. And then after that, they're just put on the unpaid military leave. They can use vacation if they want to. Unpaid military leave would be until the end of their initial enlistment. If they decide to stay, or if they decide to stay enlisted, or if they fail to return once that initial period is up, then that is an automatic resignation. And again, you need their orders from their commanding officers on that. Any questions on military leave? Okay. And then we have victim protection leave. So Colorado law permits an employee to take up to 3 days off in a 12-month period with or without pay if the employee is a victim of domestic abuse, stalking, sexual assault, or some other crime related to domestic abuse. And then they just need to fill out that victim leave affidavit, and you can put that in their timesheet. And then voting time off. So this is governed by state statute. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if an employee doesn't have 3 consecutive work hours available, 3 non-work hours available, it doesn't have to be consecutive, between 7 and 7, they can request up to 2 hours paid time off to go vote. That does need to be requested ahead of time. So you can't just show up on election day morning and say, I need to go vote. And the supervisor can dictate the specific time off. So if it works out better for them to go vote in the morning, then they can, come in late. Or if it works out better for them to leave early, then the supervisor can dictate that. Conveniently, in Colorado, we have mail-in ballots. So there is a ballot drop-off at the Anschutz Health and Wellness Center. So this shouldn't probably come up too often, but if somebody really, really wants to vote in person, we have to let them. Okay, one more. Faculty in elected office. So this is a reason for faculty members to take time off. So they can be engaged in political activities as private citizens, and we don't interfere with that unless it's a conflict of interest. So that's governed by the conflict of interest APS. So if they ran for office and they were elected, if it's a tenured faculty member, they can take leave without pay. It does only apply to that first term. So if they get reelected, subsequent terms are not guaranteed. And then if they're not tenured, they can request leave, but it's not guaranteed. And then if they are on the tenure track, so if they're an assistant professor or associate professor, or well, just an assistant professor, I guess, the promotion clock pause, we can pause it, but it does need to be documented in writing and approved through faculty affairs. This doesn't happen very often, but I have had this happen to one of my faculty members before. Okay. Questions on any of this stuff so far? Okay, is Taylor here? Yay, Taylor's here. Hello. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Taylor, and she is going to talk about families' interaction with leave. And you can just tell me next slide and I'll click through them.
Awesome. Thanks, Deanna. Hello,
Thanks,
everyone. So I think many of these slides might be a little bit of repeat information, but I think it's good now that we're, gosh, somehow almost at April, almost fully done with 3 months into family, to just kind of do a little refresher and go through some of the highlights of the family program for folks who may not be familiar with it yet. So yeah, I'm just going to go through a couple of the highlights. So just to get started with a quick overview of family, the eligibility requirements are really applicable to all CU employees who work in the state of Colorado. That's kind of the eligibility requirement at the most general level. Now, I will say there's kind of some specifics around, do you pay the family premium based on your permanent address of residency? And a lot of this is based off of how employees enter their contact information into the portal. But generally, it really applies to all employees who work and reside permanently in the state of Colorado. Employees are eligible for family payments on day one of employment. So immediately after they start employment with us, they become eligible to receive family benefits, but they don't gain job protection under this leave program until about 180 days or 6 months of employment. So there is about a 6 month waiting period before an employee can gain that job protection. The benefit really grants 12 weeks of partial wage replacement per 12-month period. So it is a measure forward leave period, and we did recently change our FMLA calendar for university staff and 12-month faculty to align with the measure forward period of family so that we could track these leaves concurrently when it's applicable. But for folks who might not be familiar with a measure forward period, what that really means is that everyone's kind of 12-month measurement period is unique to them as an individual potentially. And it really starts from the first time an employee makes a leave request. So if I take family leave and FMLA for the first time on July 1st of 2024, I won't start accruing back my job protection and paid leave benefits until July 1st of 2025. So it's that measure forward period. But if my colleague takes leave for the first time on September 1st, their measure forward period is now based off that September 1st date potentially. So that's kind of the way measure forward works. And that is applicable to both family and FMLA in the current moment. And then another piece is that the maximum amount of family benefits that an employee could receive is $1,100 a week. So it maxes out. And we can talk a little bit more about that in a couple of slides. As I mentioned, the employee may also qualify for FMLA job protection. These two do run concurrently when it's applicable. And then employees can coordinate family with other CU leave benefits, and we'll touch on that a little bit later as well. One important thing to note is that CU family is actually technically an opt-in leave benefit, meaning that an employee has to actually elect to use it during their leave. So we cannot require it. We cannot automatically designate it. We need them to apply for it and tell us that they want to engage with the benefit. So that's one piece to remember. Next slide, please. So this slide goes a little bit more in depth into the actual family wage replacement benefit and how it's calculated. So again, family really provides a percentage of your wages, and that percentage is actually a look back based on an employee's average weekly wage rate over the past 4 of 5 completed quarters worked at CU. That's a little bit of a mouthful, and it's a very interesting calculation, but really what it's looking at is all of the earnings an employee has had over the past 4 of 5 calendar quarters worked. And so it's a little bit of a moving target in the sense that, you know, right now everyone has a set family benefit percentage. However, once we complete this quarter at the end of April, that benefit changes again, potentially, right? Because we have a brand new fresh quarter to consider, and it may change the benefit. So it's kind of a moving target in that sense, and it might always fluctuate quarter to quarter for certain employees who are experiencing pay rate changes or a lot of overtime in a given quarter, or anything that's hitting their check that's considered earnings. Employees can use other CU leave types to supplement their family to achieve at or near full wages. And that does include sick, vacation, paid parental leave, and short-term disability in some situations. This is like a sample chart that kind of talks about what your weekly wage is compared to what your weekly benefit might be under family. And you can see it really is a sliding scale. So that percentage change based on how much you earn in a week and what your average earnings are in a given week during that look back period. So you can see the percentage actually goes down for higher earners, and it's a higher percentage for lower earners. So it is a sliding scale calculation there.
And we have a question in the chat. How does the weekly average wage rate affect new employees without a look back period?
Good question, Ashley. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a manual calculation by employee services right now. We're actually trying to get better at that calculation. So what we do in that case is we just take all the earnings that we do have on record and we divide it by the total number of active weeks that they have been employed to get that average weekly benefit amount and then apply the percentage accordingly. But we're seeing that that's not always the best in the employee's best interest. And so we're trying to define what we call like an alternate base period for the calculation. It's really tough to do a method that is equitable for all employees, but we have a couple of different options we're kind of solutioning right now. But in the meantime, we pretty much just look at the earnings that they do have on record and calculate it that way using and find that average for the number of weeks that they've been employed. Any other questions that I missed here? Okay, I think we're good. Hopefully move to the next slide. So starting to talk about how family interacts with some of our other leave programs. First, we've mentioned it a couple of times, but it does interact with FMLA. So FMLA is a federal program that provides job protection to employees only. So there is no compensation component to FMLA under the federal regulation. It really just states that an employee is eligible for 12 weeks of job protection per 12-month period. Now, that being said, historically, the university has said that employees do need to use their sick or vacation or paid parental leave during FMLA. And now we have this family component coming into play. So FMLA will run concurrently with family when the need for leave meets the FMLA requirements, which the eligibility requirements for FMLA is you just need to have 12 months of service within a 7-year look back period. So we look back 7 years, and if in the past 7 years you had at least 12 months of service, you meet that eligibility prong. And then the second prong is that within the most recent 12-month period, you have to have at least 1,250 hours of service. So that's a 2-prong eligibility requirement. And I'll just note that, so FMLA, we will automatically designate an employee for FMLA if they're eligible and they provide us with all of the required documentation, which is different from family. So if we think through this, if I submit a leave application, the FMLA designation is automatic and it goes and it runs concurrently if I'm eligible and my leave is qualifying, and I've provided all the necessary documents. It doesn't always work the same way in reverse. So technically, an employee could say, I want to apply for FMLA, but I don't want to use family, and they could use it separately in that case. So just another good thing to keep in mind there. Next slide, please. And then how it works with parental leave and paid parental leave. I know we're probably all in the throes of figuring this one out. I know the employee services team certainly is. So family works with parental leave and paid parental leave, and we can go through kind of the specifics here, but in general, the CU parental leave policy, so under APS 5062, it grants up to 6 months of leave for eligible employees, and that is what I like to refer to as kind of the biggest bucket of leave available to an employee on parental leave, and it's job protection, right? So if I have a qualifying event, I can go out on leave for up to a maximum of 6 months within the first year of my event or of the child's life, if it's for the birth of a child. Now, there's all kinds of ways that I can receive pay within that 6 months. So first we have the paid parental leave benefit, and that provides compensation to employees for up to 6 weeks, and I'll say it's the first 6 weeks of an employee leave. And something new as of 2024, oh, I lost the slide. I think you might be on Teams. Perfect, thank you. So something new as of 2024 is that the paid parental leave benefit has become a supplemental benefit only to family. So if I'm an employee and I want to use the paid parental leave benefit and I'm eligible for family, I can't use paid parental leave unless I apply for family and approve for it. So it's supplemental only. I will know that there are situations where an employee might not be eligible for family and therefore could use the 6 weeks of paid parental leave and get it at full pay. That would include employees who do not live and work in the state of Colorado, so they're remote. Or it could be employees that maybe exhausted the family benefit for some other reason earlier in the year. So maybe they took leave to care for a family member or themselves, but now they have a parental leave event and they've exhausted their family. They could technically take that 6 weeks at full pay under paid parental leave. But otherwise, if they are eligible for family, it is supplement only. And then of course it does run concurrently with family and FMLA when applicable. So going through some of the specific scenarios of how this might play out for an employee, if we look at university staff and 12-month faculty, the first 6 weeks, as I mentioned, so week 1 through 6, would be up to 100% pay with a combination of CU family and PPL. Understanding that we are seeing a little bit of variance. The employee might not always reach exactly their monthly pay rate because of the way we enter pay family and supplemental leave. Oh, sounds like I might be breaking up. Let me see if turning off my video helps. Thank you for letting me know, Lindsay. I really appreciate that. So then week 7 through 12, that is when PPL has been exhausted and family continues to pay a partial wage replacement, and employees can use their vacation or sick leave to supplement the family. And then after family is exhausted, so for those first 12 weeks, after that, then an employee really can just use their vacation, their sick, or they can go on a leave without pay after those things are exhausted. And then if we look at classified staff, for the first 6 weeks of their leave, they're potentially receiving up to full pay with a combination of CU family and PFML, or paid family medical leave, which is the 4 weeks of paid leave that are granted by the state to classified employees. And so we count that as a supplemental leave benefit to family. If for some reason an employee exhausts their PFML, or like maybe they use it for something different throughout the year and they don't have enough to take them through that first 6 weeks, then we would let them use PPL for the remaining time within that first 6 weeks. But if they have it, that comes, and that kind of essentially replaces the PPL. And then week 7 through 12, family continues to pay the partial wage replacement, and then the classified staff employee can use their vacation, sick, or any remaining PFML they have to supplement. And then similar to university staff and 12-month faculty, after family is exhausted, they would switch over and use any vacation or sick leave accruals that they have, and then leave without pay.
And then we have a question. If an employee does not elect to use family, will PPL pay 100% compensation for the first 6 weeks?
It will not. If the employee does not elect to use family, then they'll have to use their own personal accruals or leave without pay.
All right, Taylor,
and-
it's Lindsay again. Can I confirm that? So if they don't want to use family at all, they can't use the full PPL benefit?
That's correct.
That seems, yeah, I didn't know that. Is that new?
Yes,
I
it
don't
is
know.
new. Yes, no, it's a good question. It is new. It went into effect as of January 1st, and that change was due to the implementation of family.
So I guess there really aren't many reasons why someone wouldn't want to use family, right?
Yes, and my guess from the policy-making perspective is that was probably the intention, is where they were trying to encourage folks to use this to see probably savings, honestly, with the PPL. Because now the families paid from all the premiums that we collect from employees / the premium that comes from CU. And so I think it's coming from like a budget perspective. I don't think that's the only reason, but I think it is a big part of it where, they're encouraging folks to use family and get paid partially from that, so that there's not too much of an impact to budget from PPL use.
Okay.
Can I
Thanks for
ask if you
confirming. I just
guys
wasn't sure.
are you guys checking the designations? We've had a couple of scenarios where someone has wanted to extend their bonding time. In the designations that we have gotten back, I'm thinking that maybe a couple of our employees have run out of family wage replacement, but are still eligible for vacation and sick. However, the designations make it seem like they're still eligible for family. Yeah, so.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I might have misunderstood. You said the designation says that they're eligible for more family beyond the 12 weeks, or makes it kind of seem that way.
Yeah, one example, we had someone go on bond. I'm pretty sure now, looking at this this chart, that she is out of family wage replacement, but the designation says she's eligible for family wage replacement through September.
Okay, and it's not by chance an intermittent leave case, it's consecutive.
It is an intermittent leave case.
Okay, that could be it. So that this is actually a great question and a good point of clarification that we talk about family in terms of 12 weeks, but technically for a 1 FTE employee, that is equivalent to 480 hours. And we can track family down. Actually, the smallest increment we could track it is 15 minutes, believe it or not. That's part of the legislation or the regulations, which say that family should be allowed to be taken in the smallest increment where an employer tracks leave. And of course, we all know that we do track time in 15-minute increments. And so we have to allow family to be taken in as little as 15-minute increments. And so for an intermittent leave employee, that 12 weeks or 480 hours could really stretch over the course of a year if they're not using the full 40 hours a week. So that might be the situation you're referring to, but if not, definitely shoot me an email and let me know so we could correct that if it's wrong.
I guess my question to you, there is a lot for the departments to track here, Taylor, and I guess we're just gonna kind of have to expect that the designations are correct, and if there are mistakes in that the leave team's gonna go back and fix that and audit. Is that fair to assume?
Yeah, I think that's fair to assume.
Okay.
Okay, so for a non-parental leave example, where paid parental leave and the 6-month parental leave benefit are not applicable, an employee can supplement with their sick and vacation leave if they accrue both of those leave types. And so really this one's a little bit more simplified than the parental leave example, but for university staff and 12-month faculty, for weeks 1 through 12, they would be receiving partial pay from family and then using vacation and sick to supplement if they choose to do so. And then for classified staff, weeks 1 through 12, they're receiving that partial pay from family and then vacation, sick, or that PFML paid family medical leave from the state to supplement.
Taylor?
Hi, Jean.
Hi, question, just to make sure I'm understanding. So going back to what you were talking about with the last question, so if an employee wanted to take 6 weeks full-time leave following a birth, and then they wanted to take like the next 12 weeks using on an intermittent basis, they would still have 240 hours of family compensation that they could get or use on that intermittent basis for however long that lasts. Is that correct based on what you were saying?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay,
and it does have to be taken within the first year of the child's life or like the adoption or foster care placement. So they're eligible for that within that first year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. All right, short-term disability. I will be honest, this one has been a little bit of a doozy to figure out. So I do apologize ahead of time if any of you have been experiencing issues with this one. A lot of it is trying to coordinate with the standard and figure out how they're kind of running the benefit and how it's all working. But I do want to just apologize for any confusion on this one and say that our team is working to try to make this a little bit more smooth in terms of how it's working, and just trying to communicate with employees up front. But when we talk about short-term disability in a general sense, it is a voluntary benefit for faculty and university staff. So they actually need to elect short-term disability during open enrollment. It is not automatically granted to them, or they're not automatically enrolled in it. It does offer some compensation components, and it can only be used for an employee's personal health condition. So they cannot use it when they're caring for a family member or for bonding. Typically it replaces 60% of an employee's income per week, up to a max of $1,500 per week. So it does run concurrent with family and FMLA. And what we have been told by the standard is that short-term disability is actually requiring family to be the first payer in any situation where an employee might qualify for family and short-term disability. So what that means is that if an employee goes and applies for short-term disability through the standard, the benefit that they receive from the standard is going to be automatically reduced or offset by the employee's family benefit, or what they would be eligible for under family, even if they do not apply for family. So the standard does not look at applications. They assume and say, you know, we're assuming these employees should be and are applying for family, and we are not going to pay them short-term disability that is not offset by that family payment amount. So we on our side are really trying to make sure employees understand this, where they let us know ahead of time. But just to, you know, for you all too, as you're having these conversations, just try to remind employees this. That would be awesome. But yeah, that's just really important for folks to know, is that the standard really is requiring family to be that first payer when employees are eligible.
And then we have another question.
Okay.
Is the standard also requiring PPL to be secondary payer prior to short-term disability?
No, they have not said anything regarding PPL in that sense. And then, so just a quick note that the maximum an employee could receive potentially from family and short-term disability is $1,500 a week. So, and that's because family is never going to pay more than $1,100 a week, and then short-term disability would never pay more than $1,500. And so if you're in a situation where the employee is maxing out, they're getting $1,100 from family and $400 from the standard, basically. But it really does depend on their earnings and their pay rate. So, okay, next slide. So Deanna already talked through this a little bit earlier, but just to note that on-the-job injury leave and workers' compensation do not interact with family. And a note that workers' compensation will continue to be administered through the departments and the campuses in collaboration with risk management. Of course, if the employee is eligible for FMLA, you can notify or if you have a workers' compensation situation where the employee is taking leave, you can notify our team and we will run FMLA concurrently with any leave that they take if the employee is eligible. And then just touching a little bit on the administration of CU family and kind of the separation of roles and responsibilities. So the employee services leave team, which is my team, we're working with employees to understand or help them understand really what types of leave they're eligible for. We're providing them with a plan that goes through their family benefit and how they can maximize their wages or wage replacement for their type of leave. We are doing our best to communicate to the supervisor and HRBP throughout the entire process. Definitely some room for improvement here. So just again, thank you all for your patience and the feedback that you continue to provide us. It is really helpful for us as we just continue to look for efficiencies and figure out how we need to be communicating better. We're also tracking leave usage and reconciling timesheets and payroll. So just this week, we did a ton of payroll validation, getting ready for March paychecks. And then we're also managing medical certifications. We're collecting fitness to return certifications, and then kind of doing all of those compliance touch points with eligibility and designations. And then the department HRBP is really involved in a lot of different things here in helping the employee with overseeing coverage and scheduling. helping supervisors through those employee relations issues for folks on leave if needed. Eventually we'll have a really good view into leave allotment and usage. So what employees are using when it comes to family, FMLA, and PPL. So I can talk about that here in just a moment. And then really ensuring employees are following their leave plan or any modified work arrangements they might have when they return. And then really partnering with our team for balance verifications or other coordination. And I know right now other coordination is a very broad term. There's tons of things we're working through together. So again, just really appreciative of the partnership throughout this. And then the campus HR team is also kind of coordinating with our team through ADA cases if needed, employee relations cases, and then we also plan to give the campus HR team a view into an employee's leave usage and allotments that they have. So you'll notice at the bottom there's an asterisk with the view into the allotment and usage with a note that AbsenceSoft is coming soon. So for folks who might not know, AbsenceSoft is our team's case management software that we went live with on January 1st. So every time an employee submits an application to our team, we take that application and we load the LOA request into AbsenceSoft. And it helps us kind of determine all the regulatory policies that are applicable. In the coming months, it will also help us track parental leave. It unfortunately does not do that right now. That was a customization that we had to configure and build. And then it also has these like templated communications. I will mention that the communications we're sending right now are like what I said, they're templated and they're built by AbsenceSoft as a company. So not always really capturing the spirit of CU and how we like to communicate with our employees. You know, this was really a quick implementation due to family and needing to be able to track it somewhere so that we could report to the state. But we are in the process of configuring our own custom communications and custom policies so that it really does speak more to our CU community and the things that they're eligible for. So that's something to look forward to. And then the other thing we're opening up within the next couple of months is the employee self-service portal. And that portal will have permissions that are set for HRBPs to be able to log in and see case information for employees that are within their departments. So that's going to help a lot with your ability to track, to know who's on leave at any given time, where somebody might be in their application process. We know that there's a lot of road bumps right now because you can't see those things. And so we're really looking forward to be able to open this up to you all. We just have to make sure, of course, that the configuration is right so that you have a smooth process. So that is something to look forward to coming soon.
We do have a question. When your team talks with employees, do you also make sure that they understand that family payments are excluded from the retirement contribution, large sick and vacation leave balances available?
Yeah, this is a really good question, Jean, and a good point. And we actually got some feedback from the other campuses about this as well, that employees are not quite understanding this piece of it. And so one thing I'm working on next week is to actually add to our family application form and on base, we're going to put at the bottom there an acknowledgement about retirement contributions. Making sure that as folks are applying and before they sign off, they understand this piece of it. So for anyone who may not know, family payments are not eligible for retirement contributions. So it sounds like our employees are not really aware of that ahead of time or reading the material on our website about this. And so we're looking for places to make that more clear for them. And we're hoping that adding it as an extra acknowledgement on the application form can help get ahead of that a little bit.
So if you have any other general questions, go ahead and we can ask Taylor those. Again, keep in mind, please don't disclose anybody's personal medical information. But if you have some generic questions, please feel free to ask her. And you can take yourself off mute if that's easier.
Hey, Deanna, this is Angela. Whenever we pull a comp summary, any of the family payments are not showing up on the comp summaries, but things like paid parental leave are. Would it be possible for there to be some sort of reconfiguration of those reports to make sure that anybody that's receiving family pay that it shows up on the comp summaries, because it's messing with our tracking system a little bit without it.
So that's probably a CIW request.
It could be. I just figured I'd throw it out.
Okay, so family payments aren't showing up on the comp summary?
No.
Okay. Taylor, do you think that's maybe because it's not, like, it's paid for out of not, like, it's not paid for out of the department, right? It's paid for out of the premiums?
I don't,
Yeah.
but it's the paid parental leave, that's paid out of a speed type also. That's not within the department. So paid parental leave, that is showing up on the comp summary, but the family ones are not.
That's very interesting to me. Okay, we'll figure out somebody to ask about that.
Yeah, Deanna, let me know if there's anything we can do on our side, if there seems to be like an HCM cause for that. And I'm happy to have our program director for HCM look into that if we need to.
They are showing up on payroll registers, but are you talking about something different, Angela? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm talking specifically about the comp summary. We use that for a lot of our auditing purposes.
Gotcha.
And Joseph, he just confirmed that I'm not thinking incorrectly. It is the comp summary that we're talking about because we use that for a ton of different things within our department. It is showing up on the payroll register, so I am aware of it there, but it's odd that it doesn't pull through.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that is weird.
The other thing that we've noticed is, although all of the payments show up on our payroll register, we're not able to see any of the family entries in CU employee reported time. So when we're trying to make sure that like the dates, when we're trying to make sure we understand correct and verify that employee was paid correctly, we can't see like the earnings dates that were used for the family payments or anything like that. Is it possible to give us at least view access to be able to see the family payments and CU employee reported time?
So this is interesting, Jean. So we actually do not use CU time to pay family. We use time and labor. So there is a back end module in time and labor that allows us to, and forgive me because this is where I start to get a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but it basically creates a pay sheet for the employee and sends the family benefit to the paycheck separately from CU time. So they actually come in at the same time on the paycheck from two separate places, which is why you can't see it in CU time and why it's only available on the registers. I will say that while you wouldn't be able to see the exact date that somebody, like, in how many hours corresponds to that exact date, your registers should have earnings dates attached to those family leave hours. So if you looked on a register and saw earnings dates of 1/1 to 1/30 with the corresponding family hours and benefit replacement, that means that that's applicable to family leave taken in January. And then, of course, on your March paychecks and registers, you're going to see February earnings dates, and that would be applicable to family leave and wage replacement from February. So I know that's not, it doesn't get ahead of it necessarily, but you can correspond the earnings dates to the register and what dates are reflecting there. But let me take this back and see what other kind of view access we might be able to get for the actual time and labor piece of it.
I know, yeah, 'cause we had a couple situations where the family payments weren't processed in the February payroll for January leave, and we were told they would be processed in the March payroll. So I'm just wanting to make sure that like if we look at an entry, we would know that it was actually relayed to or relates to an employee who was on leave in January as opposed to February.
Yep,
Or-
and that you would see the January earnings dates. So I know, Jean, we were working on somebody who's gonna get February and January on their March check. So in that case, you would see two family lines or two sets of family lines, one with January earnings dates and one with February. And the corresponding amounts would be applicable to that month.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Taylor? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, just a reminder, next month we have employee relations here. Tina and Brad are going to be here to talk to us about employee relations topics. And then we've got a couple more coming up before the summer break. And then again, in September, you might want to mark that on your calendars. That is going to be an in-person session and it should be at Ninehurst Campbell. So this is up on the intranet, so you can always check the schedule. Thanks everybody for coming. Really appreciate your time and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any last minute questions? All right, thanks everybody.